Yeah, you have this thought loop. I'm afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, and that somebody is you. That's the experience that is manifested. We're talking about the exact same circumstance. The
Mm.
only thing that has changed, Des, is the way you're thinking about the circumstance. Same exact circumstance of writing your book.
This book is meant for you to recognize your own transcendence and ability to be unapologetically you. And I'm excited for you to go on this journey with me. Three, two, one. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast and happy August. Oh my goodness, we're in a new month. I'm really excited. I always get a lot of energy when we go into new months because it's an opportunity to reset and have new goals and get excited for the future. And I had mentioned on my previous podcast episode that something new was going to happen this month. And I was excited and a little bit nervous about it. But I'm actually going to do a little series with my friend Tracy. And Tracy Pleschourt is a life coach, and I'll give her a chance to introduce herself since we're starting this series for the first time today. But for the next 6 weeks, I'm actually going to be put in the seat of getting coached. So, this is just a really cool opportunity, honestly, for me to work through the kinds of things that are very present in my life right now, and a chance for you as my audience to see another side of me that's probably a little bit more vulnerable than when I'm in the hosting seat. So, I'm really looking forward to this. So, Tracy, thank you for the opportunity to do something really special on my show.
Oh, thank you for having me. And you know what? I just want to spotlight you and the courage that it takes to step forward and to be coached in front of an audience, because it is not an easy thing to do. But I will tell you what, it'll pay dividends back into your personal and professional life at the exact same time that it will help somebody else. Undoubtedly, there will be other people out there that are dealing with the same thoughts and feelings, and they're not totally sure how to reconcile those, and you will give them the ability to articulate in a different sort of way how they may be thinking and how they may be feeling. And it's all about new perspectives. New perspectives are what create new results for us. So this is such a gift, and I just really want to give you the credit for being willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about this, especially because I am thinking through some big things. And honestly, I haven't really taken just that purposeful pause to really reflect and let some of what I'm thinking through sink in. So now is a better time as any to actually really dig in.
Awesome. So is there something that you feel like you might be sort of rumbling with? Something that maybe is a little bit unsettled. It might be a thought that you're
Mhm.
that you're really kind of fixated on, that you may be spinning out on. It may be a feeling, an emotion, a vibration that's running through your body, might actually be an action or an
Mhm.
inaction, a type of behavior that you aren't really aligned with, and maybe feeling like you're doing it against your will, or there's something that you desperately want to be doing and you can't figure out what's stopping you from doing it. So there is either a thought, a feeling, or a behavior that you have noticed you want to
Mhm.
shift a little bit. Is there anything that you can kind of put your finger on?
Yeah. Um, Maybe it's a little mix of thought and feeling.
Yeah.
So I have been for a long time, having a desire to write a book. And you know, my whole mantra is to take action, because a lot of times we pursue things that we don't quite know what we're doing, but we just know that we need to start somewhere. And so I decided to hire a writing coach.
Mm.
And she's had a few calls over the last few months to get us prepared for the journey. I'm part of a group of other authors, and the program officially launches next week. I actually have a call today to dig into some of our preparation. That's what we've been doing for the last couple months. And my feeling is that it's scary. I haven't gone on this journey before. I've known so many people, so it comforts me a little bit to know I'm in good company. But I think that doing something like this is really vulnerable, because I'm writing about me. I'm writing about what I've learned. I'm writing about how I feel, who I've learned from, and um, it's big. It's like being naked. I'm
Mhm.
naked emotionally.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm still processing through that. And don't get me wrong, there's excitement in there too. So it's
Yeah.
not all just scariness. It's kind of a ball. It's
Right.
like a ball of emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you have, let's just take the circumstance of the first call that's happening. You have a call today that is leading up to like the first official call, group call, right? Where you're
Mhm.
going to like
Yeah.
dive in and start doing the work. And so you're noticing that you're feeling a little bit of fear. You're feeling scared. And
Yeah.
that scared or that fearfulness is coming from a thought that sounds like, I have to really show myself. I have to
Yeah.
write about myself.
Yeah, like I'm sweating right now. I don't know why. I have the air conditioning on. I'm like sweating just talking about this.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. Why is that so scary to write about
Bec
yourself?
Yeah, I think it's because part of the story of myself and my, talking about being born unbreakable comes from what I've learned, and those learns or those lessons are from experiences. And those experiences are connected to people that have had an impact on me, but sometimes those experiences, felt maybe a little traumatizing. And I feel like my truth could feel like someone else's betrayal, in terms of talking about a story, which I know, of course, it's about me. It's not so much to highlight another individual, but I have to speak about impacts on me if I'm going to be truthful about how it's taken me to where I am. And so I think it's that feeling of wanting to be authentic while also having full disclosure around, you know, how I've grown
Mhm.
through my own trauma, through my own pain.
Mhm.
Um, and that's not a solo experience, you
Mhm.
know. So I think that's some of the initial things that I think about, is as I immerse in these stories and how to tell them, how do I, you know, make sure that I'm not hurting potentially other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fear is coming from a root thought of, what if I hurt somebody's feelings,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? You're afraid of hurting somebody else's feelings through telling your story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to start right there. So you have a feeling running through your body of fear
Mm-hmm.
coming from a thought, I don't want to hurt other people through telling my story.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just start with noticing how you show up when you're operating from fear. You have a thought, I don't want to hurt other people's feelings through telling my story, makes you feel afraid, which then, how do you show up? If I was to just kind of watch you like I was a fly on the wall, what would I see you doing? What would I see you not doing when you're operating from fear?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm reserved
Mm-hmm.
in not in feeling like I have some kind of boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
or that sense of boundaries that I don't that I'm almost creating myself unnecessarily,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like this tension that comes up where, in order for me to give the gift that I want to, which is the whole intention of writing a book, is being honest so people can connect. There's this barrier that I'm creating, that has reservations. It's making me show up as reserved, which is the opposite of what I want to do.
Exactly. Okay. What else?
Um, well, and it's also inhibiting the creative process,
Mm,
so there is a flow. When I feel comfortable and confident in something, it feels limitless. There's a flow there where I
yeah.
can just keep going, and it's almost like there's so much information I need to figure out what to cut out, and that's a little easier to do, because then you can kind of pick what are the most poignant moments to address. In this in feeling fear and reservation, it's like stuckness.
Yeah.
Like, what can you say, what without, because I feel inhibited by
Yeah. So you're
this
feeling
sense of
inhibited and
otherness.
you start kind of second
Yeah,
guessing, what can I say? What should I
yeah,
say?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're feeling fear because you're thinking the thought, you're really kind of fixated on this belief that if I tell my story, I might hurt somebody's feelings,
Hmm.
which then has you feeling reserved. It has you creating boundaries on what can and cannot be said. It really starts to restrict the creative flow.
Yeah.
Anything else? Does it have any touch points on anything even outside when you're feeling that fear from worrying about hurting other people's feelings? Are there touch points outside of the writing the book or your professional life? Is there anything else that it touches?
Yeah, I mean, well, my body, I feel my body tense and tight,
Yeah.
which is not it's also uncomfortable, you know. I'm like, I don't think that's just from yesterday's workout. It's but it's like a feeling of you're just like that my muscles are tight just thinking about it. So it definitely affects how you show up in your body.
Yeah.
The presence of your your body not feeling as open, as feeling as free. Um, but it also, it's funny being in this seat talking about this, because it also feels a little bit like hypocrisy. And why I say that is because I spend most of my day in a coaching seat, listening to others and encouraging openness and vulnerability. And then here I am struggling with the very thing that I help people with. And I think it's because it becomes real when it's your struggle,
Mhm.
right? And when it's different when you're listening to somebody else's struggle that's not emotionally attached to yourself. And that's where I'm like, having that sense of hypocrisy of like, oh,
Yeah.
it's one thing to tell someone else, and then all of a sudden it's you, and it's a different feeling, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. So what we want to do at this point is we want to see how our current thinking is creating our current experience. We want to connect the dots between that thought that you're having, that I'm afraid I might hurt somebody's feelings by telling my story. That thought is what's generating the fear that has you showing up feeling hypocritical, creating boundaries, unnecessary boundaries, has you stopping that creative flow, or maybe even not even allowing it to get started. It has you noticing tension in your body. It has you holding back with like these unnecessary boundaries and just ultimately feeling reserved.
Mhm.
Ultimately, like, what does that create for you?
Ugh, it's writer's block. It's like the office, I intentionally took time this month to really put myself into this. I'm committed to this, but if I can't get past this, it's gonna feel like an uphill battle.
Mhm.
And I don't want that. I want this to feel like once I start writing, I can lose track of time,
Yeah.
like I can get all my thoughts out in a way that is going to help other people, because that's the goal, that's the intention.
Mhm.
So I want to be able to work towards the goal and not against the goal.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to feel like I'm running uphill this whole time.
Right. So that thought that you're having, it's really a thought loop, and it's coming from the survival part of your brain, that primitive part of your
Mhm.
brain that's just meant to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And it is sounding like, I'm afraid to tell this story because what if I hurt somebody else's feelings? But ultimately, when you feel that fear, you see how you show up, how you behave.
Mhm.
Ultimately, who are you hurting?
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have this thought
Ugh.
loop. I'm afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, and that somebody is you. That's the experience that is manifested if you allow your primitive brain to kind of run off with the show. But the
Mhm.
good news is that right now, this very minute, we've caught it. We can see what, if we allow ourselves to react from that kind of primitive brain thought that's not even true. It's a very dramatic way of thinking, but we can
Mhm.
see what we create for ourselves when we just operate from that thought. Now, I know one coach to another coach, and I can see it as you're talking through this. I can see your face light up the minute your prodigy brain turns on. The minute your prodigy brain or your prefrontal cortex notices what's happening, how your primitive brain stifles that flow, the minute you notice that, I can see like the light turn on. You're like, wait a minute. That's not even true. That's just very dramatic thinking. That's what's stifling the process. But it's so good for the average Joe who doesn't have the skill set to take a step back and to see the bigger picture, to see what they're creating for themselves. They may just operate from that thought for, you know, days, weeks, years, and they never ever get to experience the possibility of what their
Yeah.
life could be because they're stifled by that primitive brain thinking.
That just makes my stomach hurt
Yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah. So this is such a great example. And we'll go on to like follow this as, you know,
Okay.
as the book starts to unfold, we'll go on to follow all of the primitive brain thoughts because the primitive brain is not going to go away. You're always going to have fear-based thoughts. Those fear-based thoughts are meant to be there. They're meant to keep you safe. It actually has a purpose. But what we aren't meant to do is to react from them. The
Mhm.
objective through coaching is to learn how to respond to them. not to react, but to respond. So responding looks like first noticing that the reaction is even happening. And the better you can get at noticing that, the quicker you'll be able to get at noticing that, which
Mhm.
will start to like interrupt the pattern. So you won't react as much or as often. You won't create unwanted experiences for yourself as often when you get good at catching it. So
Yeah.
you notice that you're feeling scared, and we can like architect, we can very clearly see in black and white what that creates for us, how we show up when we're feeling scared under in this context. So you can have a choice. You can see it and say, okay, so ultimately, when I operate from that thought that makes me feel scared, and I stop writing, or I, allow myself to tense up, and I hinder that creative flow, ultimately, I'm hurting my own feelings. It's me that I'm hurting. Do I want to
Mhm.
continue to do that? And I'm guessing your answer is no.
No, I do not.
Right. So, how do you want to feel about the exact same circumstance, getting started writing this book? How do you want to feel? You gave me all sorts of like ideal feels. When you were
Yeah.
telling me how you were currently feeling, you kept slipping in how you want to be feeling. If you could
Yeah.
sum that up, what would it be?
Exuberance, excitement, you
Awesome.
know, joy, and a feeling of service. I mean, that's what this is all about, is being able to, you know, take take something that I have spent years, learning through my process of growth, and gifting it. Gifting this, because I know in my heart of hearts, which is the genesis, the reason for this is because I know it will help people. And that's, when I'm in that mindset, it's it does feel limitless. It does feel like it's not a chore, it's not a task. It's something that just feels right.
Mhm.
It's the right thing to do, because if I can help one person, that feels like they're not enough, like there's limiting beliefs that are stopping them from exactly what you're describing, where they're not able to be and live in the fullest extent
Mhm.
of what their greatness has them capable of, then I've done a good thing
Mhm.
with this book. Like, that's where I want to live
Yeah.
with.
So we clearly architected what the primitive brain was creating for you.
Mhm.
Now, that was very unintentional, and now we have an awareness of it. So let's intentionally create the thought that's going to create the exuberance, the joy, the awe, the service, like the heartfelt service that's going to have you in action creating what it is that you want. So you are going to architect the result, the experience that you actually want to have. So you said, I want to feel like joy and exuberance. What the
Mhm.
thought that you gave me is, I'm gifting my story because it will help people. If this could
Yeah,
help just one person,
yeah. This could help just one person.
and that makes you
One
feel
person.
what? I'm gifting
It
my
makes
story, even if it
it
just
makes
helps one
me
person.
yeah, it makes me feel fulfilled.
Okay.
It really does.
All right. Now, when you're feeling fulfilled, and I want you to notice the stark difference between, we're talking about the exact same circumstance. The
Mm.
only thing that has changed, Des, is the way you're thinking about the circumstance. Same exact circumstance of writing your book. You were operating from a thought unintentionally of, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by telling my story. versus the thought that I'm gifting my story to help just one person. Notice how we have changed the way we're thinking about the exact same circumstance, and notice how differently we feel depending on which thought we are intentionally focusing on.
It's like a vast difference.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Okay, so
Oh
let's
my
just
gosh.
finish out the architecture of this intentional mind map. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have the thought that I am gifting this story to help even just one person. It's going to ultimately help countless people, but you would do it to just help one person. You would gift your story to help just one person. That makes you feel, what'd you say?
Fulfilled.
Fulfilled. Now, how do you show up? What would I see you doing when you're feeling fulfilled?
Smiling. And having a sense of openness
Yeah.
and relaxation with it. Feeling proudly vulnerable
There you
because
go.
I'm in a place of connection. I think when we're in our most human state of not of connecting is when that's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That transcends all of the things that create divisiveness in the world, which is
Mm-hmm.
part of the other goal I have. You're not looking at uh, the exterior things, like even the religion we grew up in or the background that we've had or the things that put us in boxes. But when it comes to human emotion and connection, that transcends everything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the place that I want people to experience
Mm-hmm.
is us having that. And that makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's the flow
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be happening, that's going to create this book with ease and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that you're not going to come up against, you're not going to come into the crossroads of, questioning certain components of it. Of course you will.
Yeah.
But those are not going to be the obstacles that keep you from writing this book. You will immediately go back to the belief that you would tell this story, you would gift this story, even if it was just for one person, if it impacted one life. That makes you feel fulfilled, which then has you living into your humanity. It has you open, it has you smiling, right? It's like that's the way that you are going to write this book in all your transparency, with all of your vulnerability, in
Mm-hmm.
all of your authentic ways. It's going to be a book that was created by you, for you, and for all of your readers.
Yeah.
So that is the thought that, of course, your primitive brain is going to want to go back to that primitive brain fear-based thought. It's going to be like, but, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. We're afraid that we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. That's okay. As long as you notice that and you just call it out for what it is, it's just a fear-based thought. It has a purpose, but we're not going to operate from that. We're going to operate from that thought, that intentional thought that I'm gifting my story because it will help people. And that is going to like springboard this writing, this book. It's going to make it feel so easy and so fun and so fulfilling. So that
Yeah.
I always joke that that's the thought that you got to have written on your wrist so you can sit and go, oh yeah, that's right, that's right. You got to
Yeah,
remind yourself.
there it is. So true. It's amazing what our thoughts are capable of doing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's really powerful.
And I love the fact that you're willing to point out even coaches need to be reminded of this on a daily basis.
Daily basis. And I mean, we're human,
Yep.
as much as you study and learn, uh, how to self-regulate
Yep.
and manage, it's natural
Yeah.
and normal
Yeah.
to go through little cycles and have to have pep talks with yourself.
Yeah.
That's why I have to write notes. I have to make alarms. I have to put it electronically and, written in different places, because we have these behaviors
Mm-hmm.
that
These thought
are
loops. Yeah. The
yeah,
thought loops that
really.
create feelings that drive our behaviors. And so it's just our job to notice those. We don't need
Yeah.
to like compound any sort of suffering by like berating ourselves for having them. They're meant to be there. We're just going to lessen the amount of time we react to them. So
Yeah.
I will be so excited to hear how that first week goes with you operating from that thought. And
Mhm.
then we'll just find the next thought that might be like holding us back a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so excited because I feel like I'm in an energy after having gone through this with you, that I can go on my author accelerator call today with that openness,
Yeah.
and also what's really neat is seeing the other authors be open and vulnerable, and sometimes those same thoughts and feelings come up,
Yeah.
is to share in that, to strengthen our own mind through the process of this. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about being in the right space
Yeah.
today for this. So thank you for allowing
My pleasure.
yeah,
My
all of
pleasure.
this
You did all the
to
work.
process.
Good work,
This is
girlfriend.
so cool.
I'll look forward to seeing
Whew.
how it all turns out.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you for for anyone tuning in. This is such a neat experience for me. You'll see Coach Tracy again next week as we're on this journey of learning together. It's again, this is Born Unbreakable is all about connecting and finding that sense of how do we work together in this life to move forward. So hopefully you've gotten a little bit of that learning today. So grateful. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Whoa, what a cool experience to be coached by my friend Tracy Pleschourt. So I love this process. It is a little bit scary to put something out there that you feel like you might be struggling through, but I think it helps us, like I was saying, to connect and going, we don't always have the answers every second. There's thoughts and feelings that we need to process to gain the confidence of how to work through them. What I love about how Tracy works is helping us to understand that we do have these two parts of our brain, the primitive brain and the prodigy brain. The primitive brain that wants to keep us safe, that goes back to these loops that have us in sometimes a fear-based sense of thinking. And often it can be from triggers of things that, have happened in the past. But prodigy brain that allows us to be in this space of openness and operating from a place that is abundant. It's that whole concept of scarcity versus abundance. And if we want to live a life of abundance, it requires us to think differently. And this This is just, it's such a good reflection for me to have because, like Tracy said, even coaches need coaching. The best people, out there have the team of support around them. The greats of the world are not great because they do it independently. I've talked about this before. They're great because they've taken the time to see where there's gaps and what they need to strengthen. So they get the right experts, the right professionals around them to support them through and to strengthen the way that they show up in the world, even when it's hard, Wow. So I guess besides that, this episode is also announcing that I am doing a thing. If you didn't catch that. If you're one of my best friends, this is something that we have talked about. Thank you to the amazing friends that I have. Donna, Monique, Aaron, all of you just that have been there through this entire journey for me. I've talked about writing a book for a while, and it is now coming into fruition. I mentioned I hired a writing coach, and I'm part of an author accelerator group. So here we go. It's happening. Born Unbreakable, the book, coming to you soon. And I can't wait for you to be a part of the experience with me. Writing this book for me really is the opportunity to engage with you in a special way. This book is not just me being vulnerable, but it's me sharing with the world the blessings that I've had to be able to learn in doing this podcast, meeting people all over the world who have had to overcome self-limiting beliefs. There are themes, and I talked about the word transcendence. That's an important part of this, is regardless of background, age, culture, religion, political affiliation, we're humans. And as humans, sometimes there are limits that we unnecessarily place on ourselves that come from trauma, pain, anguish, agony, and we have to work very diligently to get to the other side of that and recognize that we're able and capable of doing anything and everything that we want in this world. This book is meant for you to recognize your own transcendence and ability to be unapologetically you, and I'm excited for you to go on this journey with me. So thank you for being a part of it, and I appreciate your support, and I will give you updates along the way. Remember that you are your only limit, so take action today. If this is the first time you happen to be listening to the show and this is the episode you picked, wow, you've seen me a lot more vulnerable than people may have had over the last 103 episodes that was prior to this. And if you listen to my other show, Bliss Beyond Fear. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to listen. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button so you can keep up with the show. You can keep up with me. Tune in on all the different platforms. Follow the YouTube channel, Born Unbreakable, and also on social media, Born Unbreakable everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. I appreciate you. Happy August. Happy summer. Enjoy this last, month that we have of summer. And tune in again next Wednesday for the next coaching session that Tracy is going to do with me. It's a lot of fun to add this segment to my show. See you next time.